Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to Tales of the North Pole, numero cuatro, or in French, un, deux, trois, quatre, or in German, eins, zwei, drei, vier. So, welcome. And today we have a special guest, and I'll talk to you about that in just a minute. But real quick, as I was reading one of the books, I started thinking about Mrs. Claus and Mr. Claus and how my Mrs. Claus helps me out a lot. That we're complete partners. That we talk about everything. Um, she helps make sure that I look great before I go out the door, or if she's with me, we really have that air of love and joy, and also the fact that she is my partner and everything. So, and you professional Santas out there, I hope you feel the same way. Or and if you don't have Mrs. Claus that you work with, you can always tell me in the comments below exactly how you would work that out. So that's my thought on what happens in Tales from the North Pole, that we are partners 100%. Um, and so that would bring me to the introduction of these fine, wonderful books. The Wondrous Mrs. Claus. I'd actually read "Twas the Night," which is about night before Christmas, and also really explaining a lot of stuff, a lot of stories. But this one, let me see if I can show you. I actually have marked them. I've highlighted them. There's just so much great stuff in here. I've enjoyed the stories that go back a couple of hundred years, and to me, that gives us foundational information. And for Santas and Mrs. Clauses, that I believe that that's so important that we kind of have that basis of to work off of. And even though a lot of us have origin stories that we've gleaned from the movies or from reading books about Santa or even being with other Santas, each one of us has that little light that we like to shine on our imagination, which gets the children's imagination going. So, but anyway, if you look at it from that point, my wife's my partner. I have a good imagination, and I'm really working towards bringing that joy and love to wherever I go. I think having a basis of knowledge and understanding about who you are as Santa really is what you need to do. But without further ado, as they say, or gilding the lily, Pamela McCall is my special guest. I'm really honored to have her. She's an award winning author, publisher, and lecturer. After studying art and history at Queen's University, University of Manitoba, University of Victoria, and the National Theatre School of Canada, Ms. McCall worked for 25 years as a corporate art consultant and publisher. Wow, that's a lot. She's a wealth of information and, a really cool delight to talk to. And Pamela, hello and welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Like I said, I'm quite honored, and it's a pleasure to have you. So, if you don't mind, I'm just going to jump in, and I have five questions. But if you
Okay.
want to expound, and here I am, I have my tea, and I'm just going to relax and enjoy.
I found my cute little mug. Yeah.
I'm just going to relax and enjoy your company, and we're just sitting across the table and enjoying. So, first of all, I want to know what drew you to Mrs. Claus.
Well, it was really from when I was working on "Twas the Night," the art and history of the classic Christmas poem. I discovered all these stories, so I would sort of bump into things that I went, "Oh, look at that! I'm Mrs. Claus. I haven't seen that around," and so I started making a pile. And then I realized afterwards that I missed working on my book because I loved it so much. And so I
It's
thought,
wonderful.
well, let's do it again. And so I did.
Well, and it's really great because there are so many obscure references that you've brought out about Mrs. Claus, poems and stories. And how did you track all of those down? I mean, there's some stuff that who knows
Yeah.
where to
Yeah, I didn't use AI at all.
go.
because I did it a couple of years ago. I would have, I mean, I've used AI in the last couple of months and I found some things, but uh it's really a matter of going to original source. So you get like a, some kind of a clue, like you'd hear something and then you'd have to go try and find the source for it. And then you go look into the magazines. And then I ended up having to buy most of them because you really needed to get original copies so that you could actually really see it to make sure you were right. And
Right.
uh and then to when you do that, you also find other things in the same issue. So a newspaper or a magazine, you'd find an image or you'd find something else that was just fascinating. And right up until the very last minute. So there's one page in the book where I just couldn't not put it in. I
Right.
had to
Right.
put it in.
Right.
I drove my editors crazy and I drove all the designers crazy. And it cost me a lot of extra money because when you make changes, right? But I just,
Uh,
when you're committed to something and you just want it to be right. And so there's one page where there's a date that's sort of not in the right place, but I had to stick it in. And it's the only place it fit. So I just stuck it in. Right? So people may say, what's this date doing there? But it had to be there, right?
I get it. It's
Right?
not. It's like Mozart. It only has as many notes as it needs or it doesn't need. Nothing is left out or nothing is put in that it doesn't need to be there. So that's
Yeah.
what
And,
it is.
and so I could go to press knowing I was feeling pretty confident that I'd covered the subject well. I'd found really rare stuff. I published all these great stories that I thought were, I mean, I would have published more, but I was trying to make the book sort of affordable. Like it's $24. I wanted to make it sort of feasible and manageable. And I had a set number of pages always in mind for this book. So it's a bit smaller than the other book. It's a little bit less expensive. And but it's equally as beautiful as far as there's art on every page. So it's a delight to look at. And I really wanted it to be for people who are in the Claus community, but also people who are just interested in American history and the character.
Well, and I, as a historian myself, or someone who dabbles, um, I really love all the different drawings, paintings, pictures, and this one of Santa dancing with Mother Goose.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought
Thomas Nast. Yeah.
you must have every time you pulled a thread, you must have pulled out a big fish. It's like,
Well, I work for myself, right? So I'm able to do things. So when I found something like Thomas Nast doing Mother Goose, I go down these rabbit holes and I spend a lot of time with Mother Goose and Christmas and the whole thing. And then I go running down the Thomas Nast path and I research that. So I'm really curious individual. So I find those excursions
uh,
really really rewarding personally, and there's nothing I like better than walking around my house and saying to myself, I did not know that. I learned something, and I do it
it,
all the time.
don't we all? But I
Yeah.
mean, the amount of just research that you put in, and you said you actually got copies of those magazines or those books,
Mhm.
or I mean, that's a lot of work. That's and they're all fully annotated, by the way, everyone. Footnoted, annotated, letting you know this is the source. This is not made up. This is not fantasy. So to me, it's very that's the kind of books I really like to read when it comes to nailing down a figure and historical figure, even if they're fantastical. You know,
Yeah.
that to me means a whole lot. So good job on that.
Thank
And
you.
my my brain has expanded with the knowledge of who Santa and Mrs. Claus is, and I really do appreciate that. Good job.
I think the stories are like I put a lot of stories in this book, and in both the books there's poetry and stories and everything else, but with Mrs. Claus, I mean, you've read some of them, and aren't they wonderful?
I've read most of them. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean it's and the fact that it's not just one author or a few
Right.
authors or authors
Yeah.
that we really don't know or haven't heard about. I mean, there's some really well-known authors that have penned these. So it's not
Mhm.
like they're obscure. I mean, they were out there from Charles
Right.
Dickens and who were some of the other authors that like I read so many of them. It's just
Well,
incredible.
Washington Irving. I mean, there's Washington Irving, of course, is prominent in Christmas literature, and Louisa May Alcott, of course, and
Right.
Harriet Beecher Stowe and Helen Keller and Mark Twain, and I mean, there's so many people that come to Christmas. It's pretty hard to find, an artist or an artist, an author or an artist who didn't come to it. And I did this fun little exercise one day where I took certain people I love in the art world, and like Maxfield Parrish, I love.
I
Um,
love it too. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I thought, well, what did Maxfield Parrish do with Santa Claus? Because I mean, you think of him with nymphs around columns and flowers, and you just don't think of Maxfield Parrish. But then you look into it and you go, wait a minute, he did covers for Saturday Evening Post. He did Santa Claus, and he did Saint Nicholas. He illustrated Washington Irving's Knickerbocker with Saint Nicholas,
Right. Right.
and then he also designed the facade for the St. Nicholas Museum that was going to be in Manhattan. And that was back in the turn of the century, 1900. And he was hired to do the white marble facades, Maxwell Parrish, of Santa Claus for the building, which was never built. But so that's the kind of thing, right? Like there's hardly anybody, even someone like Andrew Wyeth. N.C. Wyeth, his father, was a famous illustrator artist, and he did a lot of Santa Claus, but so do Andrew Wyeth. Um, and his wife. So it's pretty hard to find an artist who didn't touch it, you know?
Understandable. It really does play
Yeah.
a big part in our life and in our again to use the word fantastical historical figures,
Mhm.
and my imagination goes wild with just seeing these pictures. I'm like, wow, that's great. And how do I pass that on to kids without getting them too far into the rabbit hole, but just enough to bring them joy? So
Right, right. I um I also think it's really important to recognize, especially in this year celebrating the 250th, I think it's really important to recognize these are American characters. They're American fictional characters. Santa Claus came to life really through Saint Nick, not Saint Nicholas, Saint Nick by
right.
Clement Clarke Moore in 1822, 1823. First reference in literature by Fenimore Cooper. And as Santa Claus, it's the first time you ever see it. James Fenimore Cooper, the pioneers, he says, "Let's get home for Christmas Eve. It's been time for Santa Claus,"
Right.
right? 1922. So first time 1822, first time you ever see that. And then Mrs. Claus shows up in Connecticut in 1851 as Mrs. Claus in the Yale Literary Review. She's described as Santa Claus and his wife, Mrs. Claus.
Right.
So she does appear in 1849 in Philadelphia as the wife of Santa Claus, but she's named in 1851. But they're American. Okay, they're from New York. Santa Claus is from Manhattan, and
Of course.
Mrs. Claus is from New Haven, Connecticut. That's just how it is. And you don't find them in European literature before that. They're American, very
Not
much.
Santa Clauses as we know them. It is the Saint Nicholas's. It is the oh, what else do they have? Well, I won't go back to the history of Odin and everything, but
Yeah.
they're
He had a
complete.
wife. He had a
Yeah,
wife.
they're
Odin had a wife. Yeah.
right. Completely
Yeah.
different characters, but it's I like the fact that you did bring out the fact that these are American inventions. These are American, purely American Santa Claus. It's not really tied to Saint Nick coming from Spain up to the Netherlands or any of the other things
No,
that
I mean, Santa Claus's attributes, his benevolence, his anonymous giving, the storyline, of course, have ties to St. Nicholas and this tradition through all of Western culture, through decades and decades and centuries. Sure, there's threads, but Santa Claus, Saint Nick, as we know him, the jolly elf,
yeah,
um, not Saint, the elf,
right,
is
right.
from America, and I think I'll just mention this because I think it's really poignant and interesting. The Greek Orthodox, the shrine at 9/11 in Manhattan. In the church there, they have the right foot of Saint Nicholas
Oh
when
no.
Yeah, when they rebuilt that or built the shrine to 9/11, the Italian government gave the relic of the foot of St.
That's
Nicholas to them
amazing. That's
because
amazing.
the church St. Nicholas was the only church blown up, destroyed during 9/11.
Uh,
Um, and it had been there for a very long time. And so, in honor of this saint, who was a very important saint in Western culture, patron saint of children and other things. But I thought that I went to see it, and I actually asked them. I said, "Do people see this?" And they said, "We bring it out every communion." So if you're
nice.
in Manhattan and you want to go there, and they have this beautiful mural on the wall of Saint Nicholas giving the gold through the open window, right, to
Yes,
save these girls from
yes,
slavery, which is the very beginning of the story of Santa Claus coming at night to give presents, but anonymous. Well, not really anonymous, so we know it's Santa, but he doesn't want to be thanked for it. He just wants to give people joy and children presents, right?
absolutely, absolutely. Well, and I don't want to go off on a rabbit trail either, but I was really interested in the fact that Mrs. Claus had said, "Hey, Nick, I'm going to box your ears." Or Chris, I'm going to box your ears if you don't give every child a gift. There can't be kids out there that are that bad. So, and then she goes and finds out there are children out there that are that bad.
Well, isn't that a wonderful story? That's from the 1880s. I think that one you're mentioning in my book. I published that story in my book, Wondrous Mrs. Claus, because she actually goes out and she deals with the elves who are stuffing the bad deeds up the chimney so Santa can't get down. I mean,
Right.
how creative is that? It's great stuff. And so here I am. I'd buy the magazine and I'd read it because none of these things are online because they just haven't been put online. And so I'd buy the magazine and I'd read that story and then I'd go, I have to share this with people because this is great stuff,
It's
right?
it's wonderful. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. So, um, to lead off onto that, to the revelations of the origins of Santa and Mrs. Claus, um, in one of the stories, Santa realizes that he's lonely. He's been alone for a very long time, and so he wants a wife. Well, in this particular story, he actually marries Mother Goose and takes all their children up to the North Pole. So, I mean, just the revelation that must have really given you some drive and fervor to find out, okay, what's going on here? How is this
Yeah.
working?
That's 1881. And he marries Mother Goose. And I actually bought an original painting. I put it in my book. I bought a painting um, off eBay. It's from about that period. And no one else had it. It wasn't online. I just happened to find this thing. And I think I paid $45 for it and I had it FedEx to me. And I took it out of the frame and threw the frame out and I had it and I put it in my book. But what's really fascinating to me is that that's what the story was in 1881. But in 1922, Santa Claus has a grandmother named Mother Goose. And it's Mother
Hmm.
Goose and King Cole who help Santa Claus go up to the North Pole with his new bride and set up shop. So, it's as though people didn't read each other's work. It's like, right? But I think one could say the same thing about today because you still see things coming along that you go, where'd that come from? That's a new concept, right?
Right, right. Well, it's the same like we had discussed the other day that almost every Santa has their own image of the North Pole. You know, it's like sometimes when I talk to other professional Santas and we're talking about, well, Santa makes all the toys, and it's like, well, that's think about how many children there are, and I forgot to do the math again because I wanted to go look that up and see how I got my numbers, but I figured it was over a billion children. So how could one man, no matter how hard he worked, make toys for a billion children? Plus, toys are plastic now, and there's clothes and all kinds of stuff. So, uh, I'm thinking as I'm looking at my understanding or my image from a managerial standpoint, we talked about this, that how many elves would it actually take, and would they all just work on one thing? No, they would not. They would be broken up into clans. In fact, there's a couple of stories I've read about elves actually being in clans and each one specializing in plastics and leather and wood and things like that. And then how many wooden toys are actually given out at Christmas anymore, like the old days? So, I mean, gosh, I myself am a collector of little pop bobbleheads.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's plastic and I have like the gingerbread man and Santa Claus and things like that in a bobblehead. So, I would think that those would be relative to Santa Claus's workshop, that um I've only made it this far and can only use Zoom because my elves set me up and say, "Don't touch anything, Santa. This just push that button and you're on Zoom. Now you could talk." you know. So
Yeah. Well, I think with all these things, one has to stay poetic. One can't get all literal. One has to be, one has to stay poetic. It's a magical story. And, I think having magic around you and fantasy and all of that and creative thought is so important. I think it's colors life in a way that, is brings joy and comfort and everything else. So I'm a really big, you know, I have grandchildren now, and it's great fun to be very creative around a grandchild. And I think it's kind of astounding when you're around people who don't have that ability to ignite creativity in someone. It's like I'm kind of like, wow, like I'm not, I mean, I am a highly creative individual, but I think they sort of view it as, I don't know, maybe a bit nutty. It's like I'm always so creative. I have animals talking in my car. I mean, I dress like Snoopy. I have fun costumes. I have fun earrings and socks. And I mean, I play the grandmother role in a really big way. And I just, yeah. And I'm going to continue to do it because I take great joy in it. And I think you can see the results of being creative around children, right? You can, like, I know Santa's, you can see in their eyes that they're coming with you on this ride, right? And it's so much fun.
well, the interior life is what gives you the exterior life. So if
Right.
your interior life is like you were talking about, full of imagination and how we would if we're joyful, if we're loving people, if we want to draw people into this world like we do during the holiday season, then our interior life has to be that rich. And I have
Right.
questions. I have myself as Santa Claus have those things. And if I can't imagine it, if I can't see it, if I can't make it mine, then it's not going to come out. Like what did you use the word? It won't be spontaneous. It won't be part of me. So it'll
Right.
sound negative or hollow when
Right.
I'm hanging out with the kids, and
Yes.
enjoying them. And I want them to I dance with them, I bring a
Yes.
speaker and we just have a great time. And
Yeah.
yeah.
There's nothing like it. I mean, having driving your car, and I have a little set of three or four little stuffies on my dashboard, and they're always having little conversations as I'm driving, and they often have a little fight or they fall on the floor. Anyway, and to see a 3-year-old do a belly laugh, I mean, an absolute belly laugh, roaring with laughter, just the best, isn't it? The best.
It's there. Like as Santa, sometimes I have, well, we all have long days. But I mean, I'm putting out all this energy and all this love and all this joy, and the little kids are responding, and the big kids too are responding, because kids are all sizes, whether
Yeah.
they're in their 70s or whether they're 7,
Yeah.
So as long as they're responding to that, and I come home and I'm drained, but I'm filled.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's great. It's wonderful. So, I mean, my books, I really, I started out with Twas Night Before Christmas, the smoke-free edition, and I did that for
I loved it.
children.
I loved
I
it.
did that for children. And then all of this, I sort of drew upon my art and my history to sort of make books that I wanted to share with the world. And
Absolutely.
I made sure to put in all of these books, pictures that children might even enjoy. If you put them out on a table, a child could look at it or go, you know, get interested in this whole Christmas, history of Christmas and these characters and how people have, come to them and changed them and their costumes or their stories. But yeah, it's it's interesting. So, as many of you, I live, 365 days a year in Christmas because I only work on Christmas books. So, you know, it's I still enjoy Christmas itself. I'm still, um, you know, really enjoying sort of learning and finding new things. And I'm going to retire in 27, so I'm not going to do any more books because I just have a lot of books now that I need to sell and got to figure that out. But it's yeah, it's wonderful to sort of be able to research and find things and share them with people. And I really hope people, do buy my books, and I hope that they love these stories and share them, and the art. But yeah, I start out on tour on September 20th. That's when my book launches, and I'm
Oh,
going all
good.
over Maine, Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and next year I'll do Ohio. So that'll be my retirement because my books are based out of Ashland, Ohio. So next year I'll do Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, possibly Michigan,
The
possibly
exciting
Illinois,
Midwest.
and Virginia. I've never been to Virginia, so I really want to go to Virginia. So I
It's a
did this
beautiful
other book,
state.
this one here, What Would Mrs. Claus Do with Lindsay Stewart, and she's from North Carolina. So I'll be out there working on this book with her, and that's kind of gonna. And then I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll join the Claus community and be like the North Pole librarian or something,
That would
or
be
maybe I'll be,
great. Yeah.
Mother Goose, or maybe I'll be, I don't know. I'm
Well,
kind of into the Christmas witches quite a. I like the Christmas witchy thing too. I think it's really there's something really fun about it. So I just ordered a couple of books on Amazon on sort of the darker side of like so the witchy side of Christmas, and I'm going to read about that. So
well, the really great thing that I see is the fact that Mrs. Clauses, the professional Mrs. Clauses, not all of them have Mr. Clauses. A lot of them are independent. They're Mrs. Claus, and they're making home visits, and they're going to events and things like that, just as Mrs. Claus. So that's really been a change in the last 10 years. It's
right.
not, you don't have to have a Mr. Claus to be Mrs. Claus. And there's
No,
a
and you could be Santa Nana, which is his sister, Santa's sister. You could be Santa Nana, or you could be Santa Claus. I mean, I know two female Santa Clauses. They're outstanding.
who are amazing. Yeah,
They
they
are
look
absolutely amazing.
they look
And
great.
I talked to Rhonda. I was in San Diego, and I talked to her, and it was a fascinating story. I wrote about her in my book because she's so fascinating. But she said she put on the costume and something happened to her. And something just happened to her.
Same with me. Same with me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I never wanted to be a Santa Claus. Never even thought about it. But I had a friend who's a production company who needed a Santa Claus, and Gretchen my wife has pictures. Mrs. Claus has pictures. As soon as I put it on, she said just that she could tell the difference.
Wow, yeah.
So,
So
well,
I'm gonna dress up. I'm gonna dress up as Mrs. Claus this Halloween, but I'm doing it with a sort of a Halloween take on her. I've got like really great spider jewelry and stuff. But I'll see how I feel in it, but not sure.
understandable. Understandable. Well, we're down to our last 8 minutes.
Okay.
So, do you have a Christmas memory that is for your best Christmas, or is it a current Christmas memory with your grandchildren or anything like that?
Well, however much I'd like to say that I have like nothing but fond memories, I certainly have fond memories of my childhood. I have some really great stories, but we had a pretty troubled sort of family with lots of substance abuse and different issues, and they always seem to show up at Christmas time in a really big way. So, Christmas for me is sort of this, yeah, it's a good and a wowie that Billy Crystal couldn't write kind of moment for me when I think about Christmas. No, seriously, family vacation has absolutely nothing on my family. But I was trying to think of a fun story for you, and I only mention that because I think it's really important to recognize that Christmas is tough for some people. At not Yeah, I think it's really tough for a lot of people actually, especially people who are alone. So I always like to, if you have a family and you have nothing but jolly times, I think it's really important to remember to think of people who maybe aren't in that position because I
That's
think
very good.
it's a very tough time of year for some people. Anyway, I'll just tell you this quick little story. I was about 12 or 14, I think. And my mother was a very formal individual who had like the formal dinner with like 16 people and like the full on,
Wow.
the whole thing, like five, six course, really big deal for my mother. And she did the whole thing herself. But we were sitting in the living room with 16 people, and I was sitting beside my grandmother and my sister. And my grandmother, who was very funny, her name was Ruby Bell Pickwell. And she used to say, if you don't like me, you can go to HELL. But anyway, she turned to me and she said, there's something wrong with Vera. Well, Aunt Vera was my ancient aunt, my great aunt. She was ancient. And she had a cane that she kept vials of gin in. And I'd have to take her to the bathroom
Oh
to help
my
her with her
gosh.
stockings. And she'd have a drink because a lot of them weren't drinking. So she'd drink in the bathroom. I mean, I'm a 12-year-old. Okay.
Oh, right.
So anyway, so my grandmother turns to me and she goes, there's something wrong with Vera. And I said, what could it be? And I looked at her and my grandmother said, oh, I know what it is. And she went, her wig's on backwards.
That's great.
And my sister
That's
and I cracked up, and everybody in the room thought we were laughing at them. And my mother gave us the death stare, right? It was like, it was funny. But then my father and I had to drive back home, this ancient aunt who lives way out in the countryside in our heritage house that had been built in 1875 when we came from Scotland. And she couldn't find her key. And so she said, well, I think I buried one in a jar in the yard in 1930. And I went, come
oh
again?
boy.
We
Oh
had
boy.
to dig up a jar out of the ground to find this
And you
key. That's the
found
kind
it.
of family, right? Like that was Christmas.
Yeah, that's well, I think we all have some stories like that, but thank you for sharing that. Um, I just want to let everybody know that Pamela is available for lectures. As you heard, she's going to be on tour this starting in September. I will put her link down below as well as how to find her books. If you like what you saw, please like and share. And please share on your social media so that we get the word out about Pamela. And leave any comments again right down below. And I can't thank you enough for being with us today on Tales of the Northwest. Tales of the North Pole. I got so excited about your books and everything. I'm thinking about the Northwest, which is really a beautiful place. So thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thanks.
Thank you. I had a joyful
Thanks.
time.
Me too.
Have a great afternoon.
You too. Bye.